2005 was your last chance to buy a brand new MG TF from Rover Group, or was it? This isn't actually the last MG TF. That honour goes to a car which I imagine is in the Gaydon Museum. But it is extremely late and absolutely loaded, and it's only got 5,000 miles on the clock. Yeah, you heard that right, 5,000 miles in the 14 years between 2005 when it was new and 2019 now. Wow. Now this is what is generally known as a survivor car. It was bought in 2005 by someone who worked at MG Rover, hence the Rover Group number plates rather than a dealer plate. He kept it until 2016. Not just kept it in a dry garage, but kept off the ground, the wheels off, fluids out, and in proper storage conditions. And so this car is as close to a new MG as you are ever going to see. This car is currently for sale with Stone Cold Classics in Rootham in Kent. If you're at all interested, the details are down below. Give them a shout. They've been very helpful in making this video today. The original hydroelastic sprung MGF was designed by Rover back when it was owned by British Aerospace, and the design team was led by Jerry McGovern, who is more famous for his Land Rover products of late. The new Discovery 4 is not a favourite. It was facelifted in '99 and then ultimately completely redesigned and re-engineered in 2002. So by the time this came out, it was 7 years old as a car, but utterly different suspension, redesigned camshaft and air intake manifolds, made it a mechanically different car, and externally the new front face gave it a whole new appeal. Of course, by 2002 it had plenty of other rivals in the market, and maybe it's starting to look a little bit old hat compared to things like the MX-5, which had evolved. The Mark III MR2 had been, and I think it's possibly going again by the time this came out. The Elise, of course, was a bit more money, but shared the same engine. Even the Fiat Barchetta was a credible rival. It was low volume and left-hand drive, but it was exciting and interesting. This particular car was loaded with as many options as Rover could shove on it. Because it was an employee car, I guess they went to town on it. The X-Power grey paint is an unusual option, very rare indeed today. Leather seats, again, very rare. The face of the car, and the grille especially, gives a real sort of similar family look to the MG SV supercar they were developing and pushing at the time. Like a baby supercar maybe? It is mid-engined. The redesign to become a TF from an F didn't do a great deal to the panel work of the car, which is essentially still the same, but it was a good looking car, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it, frankly. What you did get was new bumpers front and rear, and this whole new area at the back. Makes it look a little bit more modern, a bit more sharp. It works quite well. I like it a lot. Now, the elephant in the room, the one thing we're going to have to talk about is the K-Series engine. Everyone is always down on Rovers because the K-Series always goes wrong, the head gasket always goes. Well, at first they didn't, later on they did when they cut corners, and then towards the end of the run, by the time this car was built, it didn't anymore. They'd figured out what was wrong and they'd fixed it, and it's a really, really good engine, not to be underestimated. The interior on this car is amazing. I know I keep saying it's like a new car, but this is like a new car. However, because it was a new MG TF in 2005, it was a bit like getting into a new car from 10 years ago back in 2005. If you're familiar with the Rover Group products, Freelanders, Rover 200s, 400s, you will recognise almost every binnacle switch and button in this car. The door mirror adjuster is the same as in my Tomcat from 1993. In terms of comfort and luxury, this one is very nice indeed. The leather seats were an unusual option in this car, and they have worn so well you can barely tell they've been sat in. I would imagine this passenger seat has only been sat in 2 or 3 times. The driver's seat doesn't look like anyone's been in it more than a few minutes, really. It's astonishing, really. It also has a nice leather handbrake and a leather steering wheel, which again looks completely unworn. It could be brand new out the box. It does have this rather nice metal gear knob, which is quite cold on a cold day, but very tactile, gives you a nice sort of solid chunky feel. And it also has what you think might be a metal surround, but it's actually plastic with moulded in Allen key heads. I'll give them 5 out of 10 for that. The radio is completely original. It's a standard stereo CD unit from 2005. The little silver back dials look pretty cool, give it quite a sporty feel, although the silver little dials on the heater controls look a little bit cheap and plasticky. One bizarre little thing I noticed driving around today is that you can have obviously face vent, windscreen or feet, or you can have feet and windscreen, or you can have windscreen and face. But you can't have your face and your feet warm at the same time. I don't know why that would be. You're not shy of cubby holes on this car, which is great for a convertible because things will blow about, as well as obviously you've got a glove box which is actually really, really deep. I'm up elbow deep in this thing. I think there might be someone living in here. There are even bits of MG Rover factory tat bags and labels from when the car was delivered that are still in the car. I guess being an employee car, it wouldn't have gone through the same dealer process where they take all that kind of stuff out of here. But as well as that, you've got this nice little cubby down here for your sunglasses and phone and things. An ashtray if anyone's going to dare to smoke in a car and spoil a car as nice as this. You've got a little cubby down here, which is quite deep. Great for your cassettes if you've got a tape player. And even one more back here, which becomes a double cup holder. Very nice. One thing I was less keen on looking around the car, it's in perfect condition, but it's just the way they chose to do it, is this kind of grey rough effect plastic around the radio and the heater controls. It looks a bit like Hammerite rough finish spray to me. I probably wouldn't have chosen to do that, but they did, and it is what it is. Needless to say, the carpets in this car are absolutely immaculate, as are the kick panels on the down by the door. Normally these kick panels will be scuffed up pretty badly from heels banging into them every now and then, but these mirror finish. I don't think I've got any spinach in my teeth, have I? Now your average saloon car will have maybe one courtesy light in the front, if it's super posh, one in the back as well, and if it's super posh, you might get one down in the footwells too, one either side. This little convertible, this two-seater, has got 4 courtesy lights, one either side of the mirror and one either side of the footwell. What it lacks in other areas, it certainly makes up for in courtesy lights. Sitting in one of these things is very comfortable. These leather seats are definitely worth whatever someone paid to give it the extra bit of comfort. They're very supportive. They've got nice bolsters on the side, on the base, so you really are held quite well in here. You are a little bit high though, and I do find that my eye level is only just below the top of the windscreen, and if the roof was up, apparently if you're over 6 feet it's a little bit tight. This steering wheel does look very familiar to all the Rovers I've sat in throughout the 90s. The pedal position is good, and the clutch is not too long a throw, and the brake pedal is very short throw. In fact, you can barely push it at all. Curiously, the accelerator pedal almost is into the carpet as soon as you touch it. It does work, obviously. You can get the full rev range out of it. It does feel quite heavy pedal. There are plenty of speakers in here, so as well as the Rover original radio CD player, you've got 2 speakers per door, and you've got a speaker behind each seat, so you get decent sound even with the roof down. These are actually the same instrument stalks as in my Rover Tomcat from 1993. The difference is, these are how Rover intended them to be, because they've got a lovely kind of tapered, elegant design, and they are extremely positive, like a weighty feel with a solid click as you move into the indicate and turn the wipers on and off. Whereas the Tomcat, after 120,000 miles, is a little bit flappy. This is clunk clunk. And the spring action on that wiper. Oh, I'm doing intermittent wipes all day with that. That's just nice. That's just so nice. One other bit of nostalgia for MG lovers was this tonneau cover, which is common on MGs of the past and all sports cars of the past really, with a convertible roof. But by the 90s and the noughties, the Mazda X5, pull one lever and the roof disappears back. The Fiat Barchetta had a lift-up plastic deck lid so you could hide it. Most other cars had some other contraption to hide the roof. You didn't have to go and fetch your tonneau out of the boot and tuck it in here, which frankly is something of a faff to do. Here in the back of the car, you actually get a pretty decent sized boot. You can get a few weekend bags. I don't know if you go to golf clubs, I don't play, but you certainly get a lot of big stuff in here. It's fairly commodious. Also, you have the access to your engine, which is kind of limited because it is mid-engine. I'm not quite sure how you do an oil change in this. You've got your various fluids and filters and things you can get to in the top. You've also got your 6 CD changer, which is quite nice, and the handle that pops the bonnet at the front. Now, some mid-engine roadsters, like the Mark 1 MR2 for example, as well as having that area behind the engine in the middle, have got a really useful front trunk. This, however, doesn't. You've got your full-size spare wheel, your battery, your ABS brake module, lots of plastic, your dual horns, which I'm sure sound great. They sound good. The first thing you notice when you turn this car on is exactly how smooth this engine is. I've owned a couple of cars with K series in them, and even when they were brand new, they didn't feel as nice as this one. I guess this is because it is such a late in the production run version of the K series. So many little niggles and flaws have been ironed out by then that it really was the absolute premium, the best that a K series could possibly be. Something else you notice when you drive this car, I'm going on about it quite a lot, is how new this car feels. It does not feel like a 15-year-old car. It really ought to. Everything is precise and positive and exactly as it should be. The gear change is about the best PG one I've ever shifted in. It's a solid clunk from one gear to the next. A little bit of mechanical catch as you move through the gate. You can feel the gate as you move through it, but that's to be expected. The car's not really worn in properly yet. When you get your foot down on an open bit of road, everything just remains so composed. There's no shake. There's a tiny, tiny creak from that door, but I think it might actually be my camera rather than the door. Not quite sure. It's very, very quiet. It's very comfortable. When the TF came out, a lot of people complained it had now got electric power steering, but didn't think it had the same level of feel as the old hydraulic system. And to be honest, it's a bit of an empty argument because there's still plenty of feel in this system. You get every little knock and bump back through the tyres into the steering wheel, because one way or another, because these days everything's got electric power steering on it, so it makes no odds whether you didn't like it or not back in 2005, because you've got it now whether you like it or not. Obviously the biggest change between the F and the TF was the fact it went from hydroelastic suspension to coil springs. Now the difference this makes is quite big really. It kind of transforms the whole character of the car. On a long straight road you don't have the same kind of smooth, flowing undulation, cosseting ride you're used to on the hydroelastic. But when you get to a corner, you do have far more turn-in, grip, control. The car just feels tighter through bends now than it did before. So in terms of it being a sports car, it was definitely a move in the right direction. Also worth mentioning how good the brakes are on this car. Incredible control. It's only a light car, so it's not going to have to, stop a great big battleship of a thing. But you can dance on the pedals, slow it down into a corner, knock it into third, and just belt through a bend. This is a huge amount of fun. You've got that little K series singing behind your head the whole time. This really is a car for a country lane. I know for some the MG brand is a touch of nostalgia, or Britain's finest glories of the past, but this is actually a really good car. I realised that in 2005 this was a car that's perhaps a few years past its prime, but 15 years after it finished production, you kind of forget all that. Put it into the context of today, it just feels like a really nice traditional sports car. Rear wheel drive, okay, mid-engine isn't traditional, but the drive's going to the right end. Light steering, open top. It's just great. This is just fun. This is fun motoring at its finest. If I was in the market for a little two-door convertible sports car right now, and had about £10,000 to spend, I think I'll be looking quite seriously at this one. I know that as a dyed-in-the-wool Roverphile, I'm always going to be a little bit biased towards MG Rover products, because I just always really like them. But even being aware of the shortcomings of the MGF and the TF, the fact that they were built on a shoestring, this is a really nice car. Very, very enjoyable to drive. I can't believe what a time warp this is. I actually feel guilty driving this car because it's got so few miles on it. I feel like I'm spoiling something that should have been left and not touched almost. You know, I'm absolutely blown away with this car. I've driven a couple of MG Fs and TFs over the years, but none like this. Not since 2005 anyway. Well, thanks for watching this little roundup of the last nearly new MG TF for sale in the world. Don't forget, it's for sale at Stone Cold Classics in Rootham, and please hit like, please hit subscribe, leave a comment if you've had one of these cars and it was as good as perhaps it could have been. Thanks for watching, see you next time.